I'll just spend an extra $7 and go get some more Tylenol. 5 things you need to know for medical emergencies. And you can see these written on your list right there. Chest pain, choking, bleeding, seizure. What is the universal sign for choking? Right. I remember growing up when I was in the Boy Scouts, one of the things I always said is, "Are you choking?" And you're supposed to ask somebody that. Well, if you're choking, then yeah, exactly. So know these different signs. Know the signs of a heart attack. You know, there's the whole left arm going numb, tightness in your chest like an elephant sitting on it, and stuff like that. Know the signs of a stroke. You may not know that you're going through a stroke, but make sure somebody else with you knows that you're going through a stroke. You know, make sure that if you have somebody living with you or family members, let them know what the signs of a stroke are as well. Actually, in October a couple of years ago, we were sitting in the middle of a Sunday morning church service, and my papa, who's 80, he was born in 29, so he was 86 at the time, I think it was. He was sitting on the end, and it was my mom, and then me, and Ellen and Zachary, and you know, we had a whole row of our family there. And we had stood up to sing the invitation song, and Papa wasn't standing up, he was just sitting there. And so Mom looked over at him and said, "Daddy, why aren't you standing and singing?" And he went to this awful tirade about how he didn't think he needed to stand anymore, how it was loud, and his feet were hurting. And then we sat down, and he continued to talk louder and louder and louder. After the invitation song was over with, and it was quiet, he kept talking loudly. And so Mom looked over at me, and I thought something's not right. This isn't Papa. Those of you who know Papa, you know, that's not him. And so we immediately asked him, you know, to come out and talk with us. And he started being very mouthy. And at one point in time, and I hope he doesn't mind me telling you this, but at one point in time, he even raised his fist up to try to hit me because I was standing in front of him, not going to let him drive. Because we insisted that he go to the hospital. He said, "Fine, I'll just drive myself." And when I stood in front of him, and I said, "Papa, you're not going to. We're going to drive you." He started pushing me and tried to hit me. And so we knew at that point in time something obviously was not right. But know what the signs of a stroke are. Papa actually had a very, very major stroke. And we had him at the hospital within 25 minutes of first noticing the signs. The doctor said had we not gotten him there within the first hour, he would have died from his stroke. But they were able to intravenously put medication in him, which would stop the bleeding in his brain. It was back here in his brain. And so know what the signs of stroke are. And don't just think that stroke is for older people as well. Stroke can happen to younger people. What do you do if you start bleeding? How many of you carry a tourniquet? Anybody carry a tourniquet with you? How many of you have ever heard of a survival strap? Anybody know what that is? This right here. It's a bracelet. They use what's called paracord, and it's called a survival strap. You can go to Google and type in survival strap, and it'll take you to the website. This is actually a 30-some-odd foot long cord when it's all unwound. All you got to do is just take this little piece out right here. This clasp. Take it out and unwind. You can use this as a tourniquet. And survival strap, again, not trying to endorse anybody in particular, but survival strap, if you use it, they will replace it for free as long as you allow them to use your story. And I've known several police officers who have used them on gunshot victims. I actually talked to a police officer, not local, but I was at a class over in Mississippi, and he told me he'd gotten shot himself, and he used his survival strap as a tourniquet around his leg to save his life. So you know, you don't necessarily have to walk around with a Cat 5 tourniquet, what they use in the military, but what's other things you can use as a tourniquet? Survival straps, your belts, a tie, exactly, something along that line. Know what you, again, pre-plan. If you get a wound that won't stop bleeding, then it's probably going to be a arterial wound. And if you don't, if you get this one hit, and one's in your leg or in your neck, then you can potentially bleed out in 30 seconds or less. So you need to, when you're bleeding out, don't plan in 30 seconds what you're planning on doing because it's too late then. I already have an idea. If you get injured in a car wreck or something like that. Do not make a tourniquet. It depends on what you're using. This I've actually been through, so I can speak to this. Depends on what you're using a tourniquet, or how you're using a tourniquet. I wouldn't recommend using anything that's really super thin, because then you can actually cut through your skin. And that's what this is mainly what he's talking about in this one. Go to Google, or I'm sorry, Amazon, and you can actually type in tourniquets. And there's all different kinds of tourniquets you can use. And actually, two of my officers were involved in a shooting 2 Sundays ago. And Chris, were you on the radio then? Were you my dispatcher then? I can't remember who it was. Okay, so so two of my officers were involved in a shooting, and without going too much into the open investigation, we were actually able to save the guy's life by putting 2 tourniquets on him, one on each leg. And had he not, then he was blue, and we actually put 2 tourniquets on and put some chest seals on because he had a sucking chest wound, and we saved his life from a tourniquet. So when it says don't use a tourniquet, there's certain kind of tourniquets you need to use. And you can go to YouTube, type in tourniquet use, and they'll be able to show you more about how to use these tourniquets. Like I say, go to Amazon, type in tourniquet. I highly recommend what's called a CAT-5 tourniquet, a Cat 5 tourniquet. I carry 3 of them with me, 1 on me on duty and 2 in my car, and that's what we use to actually save this guy's life. It's what the military uses, Cat 5 tourniquets, so if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. Dizziness, fainting, obviously you can see several different things related to dizziness or fainting. Let's take a quick 3 or 4 minute break. Go get you some water, go potty if you need to, and come back in here and we will continue on. And don't forget your name and email address up here if you want some more information. Roadside safety is what's next on the PowerPoint, by the way.
Roadside safety, check.
Just barely got over that, and it's getting to yeah. But he said, it's okay. I said, Dad, you ought I said, Dad, you ought not play ball with a bunch of 9 and 10-year-olds.
It's hard on you.
Hey Gavin, what's up? Well, they're here. They might have just gone down the ramp.
Oh,
You do.
Well, I'm pulling up these PowerPoints for Kyle down there.
Every time I look at her. It's supposed to be on? You look like you ain't married, I don't know.
we'll go ahead and get started again. Hope everybody had a chance to use the bathroom and all that kind of stuff. Anybody have any questions from the first portion today? I hope I'm not rambling on. I hope I'm keeping your interest. This stuff deeply interests me, and it's, like I said, it's very important, so I hope that you're able to stay with me here. I want to look next at roadside safety. And we're going to kind of breeze through this one because the next section, I believe the next section, the safety in public, also kind of deals with some of the same type of stuff, but this one actually goes a little bit deeper than the other one does. But first off, roadside safety. How many of you ever been involved in a traffic crash? Minor, major, whatever, traffic crash. Anybody ever? Yeah, I have been. It's not exactly a fun. Dave, you mind closing that door real quick? Sorry, I'm distracted very easily. If you know my mom, you know I'm distracted very easily. I got just enough blonde in me to I stay that way. But traffic accidents can be just absolutely the biggest thing ever, even though it might be just a little minor scratch on your car. It's scary to know that I just got rear-ended. People die in traffic crashes. I could have died. And so they can be very, very scary. In fact, I was on the phone after my papa had his stroke. I was in the hospital with him, and he had a Sunday morning, Sunday evening. I was staying with Papa in the intensive care unit, and Ellen and Zachary were on the way home from church, and so Zachary called me on the way home. He was talking to me, going to tell me good night and all that kind of stuff. And they no sooner had gotten on the interstate at Moore Road, heading towards 75, when an 18-wheeler came into the lane where Ellen had already positioned her vehicle and ate up the side of my wife's car, all the way down the side. And of course, like I said, I was on the phone with Zachary, and I heard it. Here I am in the hospital. My grandfather just had this major stroke. He's there by himself if I leave, or my family's on the side of the interstate being eaten up by an 18-wheeler. What do? So I obviously go take care of them. My brother comes down and relieves me. And it was just very minor. It totaled out the car, but it was an older car and all that kind of stuff. So that's why we have car payments now, like we talked about earlier. But yeah, it totaled out her car, and it terrified Zachary. And I will never, ever, ever forget hearing Zachary's screams after getting hit by that car, by that 18-wheeler. Because it hit right there on his side. The little lug nuts on the 18-wheeler is what actually came over and sideswiped my wife's car. And so at that point in time, to me, that was the most major thing, even more major than my grandfather's stroke. Because my little boy was inside that car with my little lifey, and they had a run-in with an 18-wheeler. Typically, those things don't turn out too well, but fortunately, this one did. So, what did she do? Well, she pulled over as far as she could to the right side of the road, even though the left side of her car looked like it had been chewed up and bumped out by this 18-wheeler. But she pulled over as far as she could to the right side of the road. The 18-wheeler pulled over as well. And I said, turn your flashers on, stay in your car. And that's what she did, because you don't want to get out of your vehicle on the side of the interstate. Trust me, I don't like doing traffic stops on the side of the interstate. If I pull you over on the interstate, here's just another little rabbit trail. If I pull you over on the side of the interstate, it's because you're really being dumb. And you deserve to be pulled over. Because that's, when an officer gets run over by a car, most of the time it's on the side of the interstate. And most of the time it's just by an innocent driver. All they're doing is just trying to drive the interstate. That's why we have move over laws. And that's, Trooper Todd Larkin with the Tennessee State Highway Patrol is actually the one who got the state law passed. The law is named for him because he was killed on the interstate. So don't get out of your car. Check, make sure you're okay. Make sure that your passengers are okay. And if you're okay, take a deep breath. And call 911. Say, I've just been involved in a crash. I'm right here. That leads me to another point. Know where you are. Always know where you are. Chris, how many times you got a phone call? I've been in Iraq. Where are you? In Chattanooga.
Prater. He's Prater.
Well, sometimes I didn't know that. I'm just passing through. Chattanooga drivers are not known to be the best drivers. I don't know if y'all knew that or not. But if you have a crash in Chattanooga, know where you are. If you have a crash on vacation, know where you are. If nothing else, remember the exit signs that you pass. Remember the mile markers that you're passing.
GPS helps.
GPS helps. Well, if you're in a crash, your GPS goes out the window. But maybe GPS on your phone. They can ping your phone a lot of times. But that takes a bit longer time. That's just one of those things you have to get used to looking at. Know where you are.
I didn't know where I'm at. Those, I mean, now past that. It's like, no, I think it was this, I mean.
You know what? When you're driving up the interstate and say you're heading 75 southbound, and dispatcher, I just passed the Dalton exit about 10 minutes ago, and I'm heading south. That at least gives them a little bit more generalized area where you are.
Which side of the road you're on?
Exactly.
South, north.
If you're in on a surface street like the city of Chattanooga, about a Family Dollar on Brainerd Road. You don't necessarily have to know the exact address or even the block number. I do, because I'm just a nerd like that. But I also notice when car tags are expired, I'm heading down the interstate and all that kind of weird jazz like that. But, you know, at least have a generalized idea of where you are. So that way, when all of a sudden the crash does happen, and you get your wits more about you a little bit, then you can say, I'm halfway across the dam on the north side. And I'm just got on Interstate 24 right by Moore Road. Know where you are so you know how to tell dispatcher. How do you know where you are? David asked us. Number one, don't be talking on that cell phone. It's a distraction. Number two, don't be texting on that cell phone. If you're listening to the radio, don't have it up so loud and you're singing so loud you're not paying attention to what you're doing. That's hard for me. I like singing to the radio. I might dance a little sometimes too. So if you drive down the road and you see a police car in front of you, it's bouncing back and forth like this, it's probably my car. Keep the distractions away. The very first traffic fatality I worked was when a 7-year-old kid got killed on Amicola Highway, right where Wilcox comes down across the viaduct, and Amicola and Riverside all meet right there. Now the railroad crossed right there. There's a steel pole that goes up and across, flashes lights. It was just misting, and the mom was driving north on Amicola Highway, well, Riverside right there where it turns in. And the best that we can determine from the investigation is that somehow or another the 7-year-old kid had gotten out of his booster seat. He'd taken his seatbelt off or something like that, because he ended up in the floorboard in the back seat of the car. But mom turned around, and we don't know if maybe she was trying to holler at him, see what was going on or whatever, but for just that brief instant, she turned around to see what her kid was doing, and when she turned back around, she centered that steel pole and killed the 7-year-old kid in the back and killed her. That sticks out most in my mind because the kid was wearing a t-shirt that day that he died in that was the exact same t-shirt my son was wearing when I left for work, just a little bit bigger. And so that sticks out in my mind. And like I said, the investigation led that she was distracted by something. So keep these distractions down, and then you'll be able to know more about where you are. Don't get out and walk, especially on an interstate. If your vehicle breaks down, same type stuff. Stay in your car. If you have Bubba come rolling up next to you in a big old F-350 pickup truck that the tires are bigger than your car, and get a big old rebel flag in the back and say, "You need some help?" You say, "I've got 911 on the way. Police are on the way, thank you." Don't let Bubba out of the truck to help you, especially you ladies. Because he'll see a lady and think, I can take advantage of this one. So, car crash and car breaks down. Those are two very much of the same concepts. Immediately contact for help. I did chapel at Boy Buchanan on this past Wednesday. And I'd come out of my neighborhood and I was heading down Hunter Road. And I was going around, Carol, I don't know if any of you know much about Hunter Road, but there's a gas compressor area. You know what dangerous curve I'm talking about, don't you? They've got like 3